Well, thank you, Chair Fox. And as the Speaker talked about, a lot of people say, why have the Democrats continued this charade of shutting down the government and inflicting pain, real pain, on millions of families across America? And the Speaker laid it out real clear. Chuck Schumer filed an alternative bill weeks ago of his list of demands, literally a list of demands that he said have to be met before he releases the American people from this torrential pain he's inflicting. And it includes $1.5 trillion of new spending on far-left wish lists. Things like, yes, taxpayer-funded health care for illegals. It's in Chuck Schumer's bill. He guts rural hospitals, all as part of his demand to open up the government. It's not only not serious, it's also destructive. It's something that would actually hurt this country. And why? All so that he can show the radicals and the far left of his party that he's fighting Donald Trump. Everybody knows that's what this is about. Chuck Schumer is scared to death for his political future. He is way more concerned about his political job than he is about the jobs of millions of American families. And it's having a real impact on those families. Today, as has been pointed out, day 14 of the government shutdown that Chuck Schumer imposed on the country, and it is the day where checks would normally be starting to be processed for all of the government workers, many of whom will not get a paycheck because of Chuck Schumer's shutdown. You're already starting to see flight delays, families trying to go visit a relative, maybe go see one of their family members get married, go on a family vacation. They're not able to do that because of Chuck Schumer's shutdown. Our men and women in uniform at risk of losing their pay. And I will credit Donald Trump for a lot of things, but if you look, President Trump has not sat by and just waited for Chuck Schumer to get over his tantrum. President Trump has continued to do his job for the American people. And thank God, because the world is a safer place with President Trump at the helm. We saw that yesterday. What an historic day. And again, a real contrast to the temper tantrum that Chuck Schumer's having to appease the most radical elements of the far left base here in America. President Trump traveled to Israel, traveled to Egypt to sign historic peace accords, to oversee the release of hostages. Finally, all of the living hostages returned home to their loved ones after more than 2 years since the October 7th attack by Hamas. And one of the hostages, I think it's really important to hear this, because when you talk about real leadership, not just here in America, and the leadership that President Trump has provided to our country, but what that leadership means to the world, not only to our allies, but to the bad guys around the world. And yes, there are really bad people around the world. One of the former hostages who was released yesterday, Omar Shem Tov, credited President Trump with getting the hostages home. And he said, Hamas, quote, was very scared of Trump. They wanted Kamala to be elected. As soon as Donald Trump was elected, they understood that he wanted to bring us back home. So immediately, the way they treated me changed. That was a direct quote from one of the hostages who was released yesterday. You can see that leadership by President Trump on the world stage, and just such an historic day, a day where people were literally dancing in the streets in Middle Eastern countries. Peace in the Middle East. It used to be a platitude that for decades seemed to be a mirage in the desert, and yesterday it became a reality because Donald Trump said he was going to do something that nobody else thought could be done, but he knew it had to be done, and he made it happen and gave so much closure, important closure to those families, brought their loved ones back home, but told the bad guys that you're on alert. It's a new day in the world. You're seeing all countries come together to see that moment in Egypt where countries from all around the world stood up to terror and said, we're going to restore peace in the Middle East. We're all going to be a part of it. And there's only one man that brought that together, and it was Donald Trump. Even during a time where the contrast of Chuck Schumer throwing a temper tantrum here at home just to appease the most radical elements of his base, so that on the 18th, when they have the Hate America rally that everybody knows is coming, and that everybody knows Chuck Schumer needs to deliver a shutdown government to them to appease them. Well, how about you think about us? How about you think about those families who are struggling today because of Chuck Schumer's shutdown? There are real consequences to what Chuck Schumer is doing. Regardless of who he thinks he's appeasing, he is hurting so many people, millions and millions of people. But President Trump is not going to be daunted. President Trump found a way over the weekend to pay our troops. While he was finding peace in the Middle East, President Trump also found a way to say, even while Chuck Schumer doesn't care about our men and women in uniform, Donald Trump does. And he made sure that they will get their pay. But there's still so many others that won't because of Chuck Schumer's shutdown. This madness has to end. It is time for this shutdown to end. Chuck, don't wait for some mad march on the mall. Don't wait for some pats on the back for radical leftists who just want to hate America every single day because Donald Trump is in the White House. They can't celebrate the release of hostages because of the guy who achieved that release. That's a twisted small segment of our society. The rest of America is celebrating. The rest of America is proud of what we're achieving. And there's so much more that this great country can achieve if Chuck Schumer just got out of the way, just stopped blocking the progress that most Americans cherish, want, deserve. Our country deserves a whole lot better than what we're getting from the failed leadership. And as Speaker Johnson said, maybe it's because Chuck Schumer's been around too long and wants to hold on to the old way of doing things, the failed way of doing things, that he won't let it go. He won't allow a new, more transparent process for running the United States government. That you're seeing this leadership team, this president, delivering every single day. Chuck Schumer wants to hold on to the past, but the future is calling, and we're going to deliver. With that, let's bring up our whip.